Welcome to my channel. I am happy that you're here for this Noble Energy Map reading, which is a synthesis of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, the chakra system, astrology, the I Ching, and developmental critical times in baby's development. The reading will take you through the periods of early development and synthesize for you the way the energy flow developed over time. And it shows how you're designed over the mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical worlds, and gives you a broad perspective of how you navigate those worlds in your life, how you make decisions, how you think about things, how you pick up energy from other people, where you're sensitive and where you're empowered. Spend this time with me and learn from the reading I'm doing for the person I'm reading for. And then come back, sign up yourself for a free reading, and join me to empower your life. I'm meeting with Shell. Hi, Shell. This is a YouTube reading, so you're aware that this will be public information?
Yes, thank you.
And you agree to that?
Yes, I agree to that.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm recording and I will share my screen, and always feel free to interrupt me and ask me questions or comment. It's a dialogue, not a lecture.
Okay, great.
Okay. And what do you know about human design or my Noble Energy Map system?
Let's see. Jennifer shared a little bit with me about it. I know
You haven't studied it?
no, I have not studied it.
Okay.
I have not studied it. So
Okay.
I
So
don't,
that
and I
tells
can't,
me.
yeah, I can't pull anything up right now of what I've been
Okay.
told.
So
So not
that
a
that
lot.
tells me okay. I will share my screen. I'll explain to you why I do what I do in the expanded way I do it. And I'm not doing human design, I'm doing Noble Energy Maps, which is an expanded system that looks at all of consciousness.
Great.
So I'm going to share my screen. This is the mandala. I call it the mandala of synthesis. And it is, when I first saw this mandala, it spoke to me because it's a synthesis of the basic tree of life structure, chakras, astrology, and then we take your basic birth astrological chart and a chart 3 months before your birth. So you began prenatally in the Gemini sign, and in terms of the hexagrams of the I Ching, it was the 12th hexagram. By the time you were born, the sun had moved from the 12th hexagram in Gemini all the way to the 47 in Virgo, which is where you were when you were born. Then, 3 months after you were born, the sun had moved to the 26th hexagram. And I'm showing you this because I use the prenatal chart 3 months before you were born, and the birth chart, and the postnatal chart. So by the time you were 3 months old, every zodiac sign between Gemini and the 26th hexagram in Sagittarius were imprinted into your energetic aura. At the same time, the Earth moved around the other side of the wheel. So by the time a baby is 3 months old, the whole zodiac wheel has been imprinted into their aura. And I show you that because the charts I use are an expansion of the basic human design. Now, the basic human design only used the birth chart and the prenatal 3-month chart. I'm an astrologer. When I was Ra Uruhu, the man who brought the human design system to the West, when I joined forces with him because he asked my husband and myself to validate the design system scientifically, he had given me what he called the lunar date, which he said is the sleep design. It's not the sleep design, it's the dream design. And it's the dream design. Notice it's based on the lunar date. And it's a week before birth. So I began looking at someone like yourself who has, in human design, you'd be considered a manifesting generator, someone who can make things happen. You can do things. But internally, you lose the sacral center when you go to sleep. So I started thinking about that. And I said to some people, so you go to sleep thinking you know what's right for you, and you wake up in the morning and you think, what was I thinking? So I began to look at the different layers, and I knew that my cats dream and they sleep. So I knew we had a missing calculation. I used twin kittens, exact homegrown birth times to the second kittens, and I got the lunar minute chart, which is the sleep design of a mammal. And I also knew that we could get inspiration from above. So that is the solar minute chart. And when I got the calculations for the prenatal and I ran the postnatal, because as an astrologer, when we're looking at somebody's chart, we look back 3 months and we look forward 3 months. So I did that astrologically and put it into the body graph, and it charted significant developmental times in the first 3 months of a baby's life. Do you have any children, Shell? Okay. Have you been around babies?
Yes, I was a nanny to my niece. It was, yes.
Okay, so you know that over the first 3 months of life, there's a lot of development that happens. And at 3 months of age, a baby starts reaching and making choices. So I look at each world, mental world, spiritual world, emotional angelic world, and physical world. 3 months before birth, a week before birth, when the soul comes into the baby. 2 days is the emotional, and postnatal 2 days is when the milk comes in and the baby attaches. A week after birth, many cultures say that's when the soul is anchored, and that's when they name a baby. When there's a ceremony like baptism. 3 months, the baby's reaching. So I look at all of these charts. In your case, you were born with a very strong push to manifest in the world. But doing it impulsively is not always right for you, because spiritually, you're an empath. You pick up energy from people around you and you become a channel. And I have a cat. When he steps on my desk, I know he's threatening my keyboard. So you are extremely sensitive to energy, always have been, always will be. And sometimes you could be acting in the world, in the mental world, based on what you've picked up from other people, only to contemplate something and then go, what am I thinking? That's not me. My husband is a physical empath. You're not, except spiritually. So you're not so vulnerable to the mental world energy of other people as their inner core and their spirit. So you know a lot more than would meet the eye. And you have a lot more knowing than you give yourself credit for. When we look at your composite, so the charts on this third frame has who you were when you were born in all four worlds and what happened after birth, postnatal. This is the composite, the integrated chart. Now, in the integrated chart, we can trace the channel that goes from the root to the splenic center. Then your splenic center connects to the sacral center. And then it goes up the central column to the throat. Notice that the crown and the ajna are not connected. So you would be considered, in my system, a split definition manifesting generator, extremely strong. You have leadership abilities. You can always speak. And many times you say things to people that are profoundly life-changing for them. I know nothing about you, Shell, other than your name and your birth data. So along the way, I'm going to say to you, does this ring true? Did I get you? So far, am I getting who you are?
Yes, everything you have said rings true. Absolutely.
So you are a caretaker. And I'm going to look back. So the 5027, where is this? Where is the 27? Saturn in Taurus.
Mhm.
And the 50 is your moon. The 34 is your Mars prenatal. So what's red is prenatal. What's black is natal. So if we separate out the prenatal, the red, you may not always be comfortable taking action. You may feel a little insecure about it. It's almost as though you're picking so much energy up from other people that you don't always feel confident about what belongs to you. And it's confusing for you. So let me tell you what you can count on. When you know what you know because you know it, nobody can tell you you don't know it. And it comes to you by frequency. I don't know if you hear it or if you just know it. And I'm looking at the 48, which is your Jupiter in Libra. The 50 is your moon. The 47 is up in the ajna, and it hooks up in your lunar design. So you function as a channel for people you're picking up energy from. And you know things about people, and you pick it up in your body, and it bothers you. It really bothers you because you don't always have the words, but you have a knowing about what that person needs, and you have to wait to know. And sometimes it's frustrating for you because you know what is it you know? Um, oh, here it is. Let's see. Let me see where it is. You hear when somebody's speaking to you, if it resonates with truth. So part of the challenge you've had in your life, I think, is because you know when somebody's speaking truthfully about themselves, when they don't, it's a challenge for you on how to confront it. And sometimes you feel like there's a missing piece. And what I'm looking at is the crown to the ajna in the 64, 63 came in a week before you were born. And the 64 connects to the 47, and the 63 connects to Venus in Leo in gate 4, hexagram 4. I know I'm being technical here, but what I'm seeing is that when you tune into somebody, and you're not tuning in consciously, somebody's around you in your energy field, and you get a hit, or you get a big question mark about what is puzzling you. And then you need to know. And so then you ask the question, is this me or is it them? And if it's them, what do I need to know? But you don't always have the voice. So you have to wait until you know because you know because you know. And when you know because you know because you know, nobody can tell you you don't know. And part of your challenge in growing up is that you can transform emotional energy for other people better than you can for yourself. And it requires you taking on a role. And probably as a child, you were very good at taking on a role that helped the people around you, but it didn't help you. Am I getting something?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Because what I see is that a week after birth, primarily you function as an emotional transformer.
Mm.
Let me explain. In the tree of life, now I'm going to show you the matrices. They're very interesting. Let me make this bigger. These are the 4 matrices that I use. So this is the mental waking world. Notice that the mental waking world and the physical biological world are the only 2 matrices that have the solar plexus. Solar plexus is the emotional energy. The spiritual world and the emotional angelic world have no solar plexus. They do have the 59-6. You can't see the 6 here, but it's there. You can see it here. So your role, and I'm piecing together how it might operate for you, but your role in your design, the red shows the prenatal, the unconscious, subconscious, preconscious psychic ability, which you have, but you're more of a channel than a psychic. And you hear frequency. Now, I have the 58, 18, 48, 16. You don't have the 16. You have the 48, the depth. And you know what people need. And you know when they're emotionally reactive, that there's something you can do to facilitate their transformation into creative intelligence. Now, looking back at the matrices, and Shell, tell me if I'm jumping around too much for you.
No, this is perfect.
Okay.
Great.
So in the tree of life, we go from the sacral center to the root center, up to the splenic center, to the sacral center, down to the root, up to the emotional center. From the emotional center, we have the challenge is, according to the tree of life, in the 32nd path of intelligence, the most basic one that we start with, the tree of life is showing us the process of self-actualization or individuation. Jung talked about it. I'm trained as a Jungian analyst. I'm trained in my PhD in the 4 worlds: sociology, anthropology, psychology, and biology. So I'm trained as a researcher, then as a clinician, and then as an astrologer and a psychic, seeing auras since I was born. So it became extremely important to me to integrate all of the fields. And because I had my twin kittens, I knew that I needed to get to the sleep design of a mammal. And also looking at the angelic matrix, emotional matrix, we can look back at you and say, okay, let's look at these paths of intelligence in the tree of life and figure out for you, Shell, what's important in that process for you. And so you don't have the spiritual gate from the 5342 matrix, but you have 2 emotional gates coming from the root to the sacral center. And you have this 5818 coming up the path to the splenic center that's called perpetual intelligence. What is that intelligence aimed at? From the sacral center, it says to you, your existence as a light body transcends the physical body. The physical existence is not where you live, Shell.
That is true.
You live in frequency. And when you meet somebody where their frequency, now I have the 58, 18, 48, 16. My gift as a clinician is that when I'm sitting with someone, I hear and I see if the aura and the soul are congruent to what they're saying in the mental world.
Hmm.
If it's incongruent, I feel responsible for bringing consciousness to them. And I might say, when X, what do you know about X? You have a talent beyond that, because what you're picking up is where you need to put yourself as a channel to find the missing piece to that person's question. I don't know how you get the question, but you get it. And I think it's sort of catch as catch can. It's not always reliable for you. And I think that really frustrates you. It's as though you know you're a channel, but you have to wait for something to tell you it's time to know what's going on for the person. Now, do you do counseling or coaching or?
I mean, essentially, like I I find myself um in the position of counseling, I'm like the person, a lot of people
Talk to
call
you.
me when they're having issues. I have, you know, coaching that I do, we might call coaching, but it's kind of more like usually listening. But as you were pointing to, sometimes, even though I'm kind of trained to listen and not give advice, sometimes I get something so powerful that comes through. I tell them and they're like, "Oh, I'm so glad you told me," and it like opens things up. So yeah, and I have been a child care counselor and worked in the field of transformation. And then just the other thing I wanted to point to that you were saying is that thing, it is a lot often for me about hearing. And I often, when I hear like in the mornings what it's working, and sometimes it's like every morning I get something and I hear this voice, and it's often words I wouldn't use. Um, and said in different ways, but I can, it often, I don't know if always, but it often does start with a question and then it comes. So like once I hear the question, I'm like, oh, it's the question. So that was very interesting that you said that, because then I get this whole answer.
Well, I'm looking at the 6447 and the 63-4 and the 24. Now, these channels are both in the angelic matrix and the mental world matrix.
Mhm.
So you're picking up energy because, let me make this smaller. You see, you're an empath, like a sponge, but then you want to be a help agent. It's not always right for you.
Mm.
So the first question you always need to ask Shell is, what do I know about this? And am I going in the right direction? Am I in the right place for myself? Do I want to do this now? You don't get the 25 until 3 months after you were born. Now, did you come from a psychic family?
Not to my knowledge.
Do you
Um,
know about your parents' history? Are they still alive?
yes, yeah. Well, no, not my dad, but I guess the easiest thing to say is just that I grew up with a lot of physical and emotional, mental violence. And so, I mean, and combined with, a wonderful childhood, right? So it's just one of these kind of, but there was the, kind of outer appearance and a lot of really wonderful, great, incredible times. And then this, often at home, this, screaming and fighting and physical violence between my parents. And so I think that, when
Is
I,
your mother still alive?
yes, yes, she is. Yes, she is.
Um, how much of her stories do you know?
I mean,
Well, let me say it differently,
yeah, I
Shep.
mean, she has said that it doesn't sound like she's had any physical violence, but she's said some things about, that she didn't feel like her parents really got her, and sometimes they didn't contribute to her when she needed help. But
Can you get her birth data?
um Uh, it's possible.
See if you can get her birth certificate and find out when she was born. The
Okay.
reason I'm asking
Yeah.
is that you are capable of transforming emotional energy, and that may be the role you played in the family.
Oh, for sure. Like I received the brunt of,
Yeah, but you also kept going back. The 24th hexagram, which is your Saturn, is a hexagram that's labeled the return.
mm,
And when I've seen it in a chart, and you have both of the other mental channels, so you're trying to make sense out of what was going on in the household. And I'm wondering if you asked your mom at this point, why did you and my dad get married? What was your early marriage like? What did you have in common? Why did you stay together if you fought?
right. And
What
they
were your
eventually did divorce and yeah.
so you are always having to ask the key question: is being a help agent for X person taking me in the direction I need to go? Because you learned to put yourself aside to
Exactly.
process for someone else.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's time for you to claim your birthright, which means you get to choose when you are a channel and when you're not. As a child, you didn't get to choose.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So the main thing for you to learn from this reading is you're a phenomenal channel, but it's not always right for you to do it.
Hmm.
So the first question you have to ask, am I centered? do I want to do this now for this person? Because when you're asking the question, unless you're really clear about who the target is, you may be depleting your own energy.
Completely. Yes.
And that's not good for you.
Yes.
You're very conscious. Most people see you as strong and dynamic. They don't understand that you're a sensitive marshmallow who can be easily hurt.
Yes.
And, you know, when we look at your internal designs, it says, make sure that you don't take on anything that isn't right for you.
That's really great.
So look at these keywords underneath. So it went from informant, transition, to wishes, universalization, to rulership. Now, where's rulership? It's in the emotional underlay, the emotional angelic. That means that you're looking to the other person to see how they're processing emotional energy. Don't take it in.
Yeah. And I do have a question. Is this
Sure.
a good one? Okay. And about one thing that really struck me that you said is, and you said it a couple different ways, but it's something like, if it doesn't feel right for me to take on, now I don't know how you said it, but how it occurs for me is there are constantly opportunities to be a contribution. And there are plenty of times when I don't feel like doing that. Like I get a no, but I
Good.
try to overcome. What I have been doing is, right, I wherever I pick this up, or is like, I'm supposed to be selfless, and take on
No.
yeah, yeah, I got that.
Uh-uh.
So,
Uh-uh.
so this
Uh-uh.
is
The postnatal, okay, so rulership, then we go to laws.
mhm,
Then we go to wishes. Then we go to Eden. And okay, then we go to laws again and then rulership. So the key for me in your chart is this 4629. In the lunar chart, a week after you were born, which says, if it's not right for you, don't do it. So when you get a no, it's a
yeah,
no.
yeah,
Now, I say, and my students all say to me, you should tape this and give us a, thing to push. I say, when you know what you know, and nobody can tell you you don't know, do not compromise.
yep, yep,
Now, you're so open shell as an
mhm,
empath that the first place you really get an inner answer is a week after the event.
yeah, yes, that sounds right. Yeah.
So you're not someone who should ever make a decision in the moment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You need to wait the week.
Yep, yep,
And so if you pick up that you can help someone emotionally, the first thing I would do if I were you is that I'd ask them a clean question. What do you know about X now?
hmm,
And I'd say to them, take it in for a week and then come back to me and let me know what you've learned. That way, you're not compromising your need to be a help agent, but you're not taking it on prematurely for yourself.
that's
Let
great.
me look at your astrology. before we run out of time. Aquarius ascendant, that means Pluto that just moved into Aquarius is going to be coming over your 12th house, sort of waking you up. If you're studying how to be a channel, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. Give it a couple of years.
Okay, good.
0 degrees Scorpio in the 8th house. You're psychic. It throws you off. It scares you a little bit. You don't want to know as much as you know. Are you studying with someone who's training you how to turn it on and turn it off?
I am, it's not that, it hasn't been that structured at this point. But that I like the idea of turning it on and turning it off. So I take that on to learn.
I'm going to be doing a 5-day experience in January 13th through 19th. It's going to be $25 for the program. It's a 5-day program. Takes about 15 to 17 minutes for you to do a day.
Oh, great.
It's going to be through the 4 worlds. You have 3 planets in Virgo. Your sun conjunct Pluto, conjunct your south node. You're driven to be a caretaker in relationships.
Definitely.
Not all relationships are intimate relationships. Don't fall for it. You're too sensitive to be responsible at that level. Take some time. Neptune in Scorpio, late degrees, probably Libra or Virgo to Libra on the undercurrent of it. Take some time and write down your values, especially in terms of being a help agent.
Okay. Yeah.
Looking at Saturn here on your 3rd house cusp, that's the repression from early childhood. In your case, probably your father. Be careful who you take on. A lot going on right now in your 9th house cusp and your 8th house cusp. You're getting ready to be a little bit more visible. It's 3 to 4 months timing before it's going to be right for you. So do the inner work right now. The inner work for you involves well, how do I want to read this? I'm looking at Pluto transiting right on your midheaven, progressed midheavens. That's saying to me, you're going to be doing something in your work that currently is behind the surface. And I'm a little, I'm trying to consider the timing. Um, do some real work on your value system with the psychic ability and the channeling. I think you're going to be doing a lot more of it, but you need clarity before you bring it into the public. Because I think you're going to be doing it in groups.
Okay.
If you're thinking of a new project
Mhm.
in work, give it 2 months to come to fruition.
Okay.
Any other questions before we wind up?
Well, it is interesting. I'll have to look at this conversation about values because I feel like in the work that I've done, we spend a lot of time sorting out our values. So I feel like I think I'm clear on my values, but I think that where the questions lie, and I'm is that when I have like an organization or a group of people who have a set of values that I think are amazing and I can totally align with them. And then I have, my own values and there's these little places where they seem like, there's like a difference or not I wouldn't say in conflict, but like for instance, what I had mentioned earlier about the like kind of like one of the values could be coming from outside, could be really what there is to listen and do not give advice. Really listen without judgment and do not give advice. And then there is within myself sometimes, and not, it's not always a good thing for me to give advice, certainly. That's not always welcome. But sometimes, as it turns out, I do have something that it's not coming from an ego place and it really is valuable to pass that
Right.
information. So that's the only, I mean, I can certainly spend more time looking at my values and I'm sure more things will arise.
Well, I'm saying values in terms of your energy.
Okay, I don't really know what that means.
It
Like
means who do you help and who don't you help?
okay, like preserving my, yeah, so I think it might be like valuing my own energy. It could be
It's
that. Could be
valuing
that.
what you know is right for you because you're an empath
Right. Okay, that makes a
and
lot
you
of,
can't help everyone.
right, right.
And you're an emotional transformer for people. So you have to know which kinds of issues you're willing to tackle
Right. Okay, good point. Right.
and
Right.
which things you say, whoa, this is out of my league.
I think for
Because people are going to come to you, Shell,
yes.
and pull on you.
Right.
And you're a marshmallow. So when they pull on you and you know you can help, you can be seduced into listening when it's not going to be a place that you can really do anything.
That's great. That's really, really great. Yeah,
And then when you can't do it, you feel bad.
exactly. Right.
So you want to pick your clients.
Right. Right.
In my Beyond Human Design book, I say about the 10th gate, which you have here in the spiritual, but it's not really a spiritual gate, it's an emotional gate. I say, if the person doesn't want you to be a role model for them, stand down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
So that's where this 4629 of yours is this a situation that's right for me to be involved in.
Yes, I get it. That's good. And I also see something about just using that word value, like, you know, as I value that inner, when I get that no, whether it's now is not the time to have to talk to that person, or whatever it may be,
Exactly.
and to listen to that and honor that,
Exactly.
not push past it, which would be a different value that would be external to me. So yes, this is starting to open up for me. I get, yeah. And it's like valuing my own energy too, looks like, and strengthening.
And making sure that the energy you're psychically tuning into doesn't take you over.
Right. Yes, that's a very good point. And I'm
You don't
noticing,
want to be contaminated
right, for sure. Yes, yes. Yeah.
because you're so open.
Yeah. So maybe it is about learning, you know, like you said, turning it on, turning it off. Uh,
And when I first recognized that I'd seen auras since birth, um, then everything opened. And I had, at the time, I was seeing 40 clients a week in clinical therapy, and a lot of couples. And then one day I was sitting at the airport with my mom in Phoenix. The lady at the next table was going to die in 24 hours. And I looked at my mother and I started crying. And I said, what do I do with this? I can't walk up to somebody and say, you're going to die. I don't want to see it. I don't want to know what I don't want to know.
yep.
And so I spent 5 years learning how to turn it off, how to see when I want to see and not see when I don't want to see. So I don't walk around looking at everybody's aura.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not an empath the way you are. I see it. I don't pick it up in my body. But you do spiritually pick it up in your body.
Right. And I don't always know if it's mine also. So that's part of that whole teasing.
That's really the key. Is this right for me? Is it taking me in my direction? Because as these Aquarian energies come in, you're going to be inundated.
Mhm, mhm.
So you need to be really clear as to your boundaries.
That's great. That's really great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
So, okay, Shell,
Thank
this
you
has been a
so much.
pleasure. I'm glad to do this for you. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank
When
you.
I get the recording, I will send you a link
Oh, wonderful.
and I will send you the charts.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you. Bye. Thank you for joining us for this Noble Energy Map reading. And go to my calendar at www.nobleenergywellness.com and schedule your own free YouTube reading with me and be empowered in your life.